Thank you. Over to you, Yin.
Good afternoon for those in similar time as Malaysia, and good morning for those in the UK. My name is Yin Hee. You can call me Yin. I'm a postdoc at the Universiti Malaysia Terengganu, working under the GRTA Microplastic project. I'm also the network coordinator for the Malaysian Microplastic network. This network set up through the GRTA project. So here I'm going to talk a little bit about what is the Malaysian Microplastic network, how do we set up, and what are the aims of this network. Also, I would like to talk a little bit about the microplastic research in our group within the GRTA project. So just give you some idea where I'm come from. I'm working at the Universiti Malaysia Terengganu, which is located at the east coast of Peninsula Malaysia. This university is highly focused on marine study, and this university on the research reserve, which is RV discovery. This university also set up several research stations on the islands in Terengganu. So for our group, the overall background was Malaysia actually is a top 12 mega biological diverse country. We have a huge coverage of rainforest, wetland, mangrove, seagrass, and we are part of the coral reef triangle. As part of this, we're also facing some of the environmental challenges, with one of them, of course, the plastic waste. This photo shows that some of the common view in Malaysia, for example, plastic waste on the beach, plastic waste surrounding the traditional housing area, as well as places next to the river. So as Andrew said, Malaysia has been estimated as top 8 mismanaged plastic waste country. Other than our mismanaged system, we also receive huge amount of the illegal import of plastic waste from other countries. Since China banned the import of plastic waste to their country from other developed countries, Malaysia became one of the main receivers. In year 2019, Malaysia received 150 shipping containers, carry about 3,500 metric tons of recycled trash. So this has been contributed even worse when we are facing the plastic waste challenging in Malaysia. So actually, we are hoping to be able to build out plastic or microplastic monitoring capacity in Malaysia and able to establish the baselines of the database for plastic or microplastic in Malaysia, as well as identify where is the hotspot of these plastic pollutions. So for this, in the end of year 2019, we received the GRTA funding, and through the project, we managed to set up the Malaysian Microplastic Network. Through the network, we wish to promote and enhance the interest relevant to plastic and microplastic research and collaborations in Malaysia. So up to now, we have 10 academics and NGO network partners from East and West Malaysia, including one of them from the Brunei University. So at the beginning of setting up this network, we didn't set up like how many partners we want to be involved. We are using the presenting network of our project partner, which is Murix, Suhaimi, and myself. So if anyone who are working on plastic or microplastic research in Malaysia, welcome to join our network. In order to support the network in microplastic analysis, 5 sets of the analytical kits has been shipped to Malaysia from UEA. With 3 sets of them are currently at Peninsula Malaysia, another 2 sets are currently at East Malaysia. As Andrew said, last year in February, he did manage to come to Malaysia to have a face-to-face training for us, and then later on also involved me in teaching and providing technical support in terms of analysis and teaching how to use the equipment that provided by UEA. This is the typical workflow for using the now rate standing method. So after you extract your microplastic, the sample need to stand by now rate before we can use the imaging rig. This is the imaging rig developed by Andrew. So unfortunately, because of the COVID, the Malaysians national lockdown and restrictions have prevented the following face-to-face training across the Malaysia. So we have used several alternative approach to keep the network running as well as to keep the training working. So this is one of the examples. So we set up our website to promote the network as well as to update some of the information about what our network partner is working on. So this is the website if you are interested, mmp.umt.edu.my. We also created an account on YouTube to share some of the work of our network partner in terms of research as well as outreach and engagement. In order to support effective use of the equipment sent by UEA, actually I worked with Christine and Alex to produce one of the video talk about how to use the now rate method as well as how to use the imaging rig, and we make it available on YouTube. The initial plan for this video manual, actually we plan to make it in the form of CD and then come with the equipment set for our network partner to use it. But then because of the COVID, we make the alternative approach to make it available on YouTube, and we found that this actually allow us to make this video for more wider contact, more researchers in Malaysia who are working on microplastic research can view this, as well as allow us to guide our network partner in using this equipment without we need to have the face-to-face training. So since last year July, we upload this video. It's almost have 3,000 views, and they are not only coming from Malaysia. The viewer also coming from, for example, Singapore, India. So it seems like the alternative approach of this YouTube can say that it's a successfully approach to provide the training, even though we are not able to meet each other. Just to quickly summarize what the progress to date. So 5 analytical toolkits are now distributed to different organizations and started to be used by our network partner in analyzing their sample. So as I say, we have now 10 network partners from the East and West Malaysia. In terms of training, we managed to have one-time face-to-face training with Andrew before the pandemic. So during the pandemic, we managed to provide the guide for our network partner through the video manual on the YouTube, as well as they also call us or message us if they have any questions about the equipment and how to use the standing method. So as now we are allowed to travel across Malaysia. So by end of this month, I'm going to have one face-to-face training for our network partner at the National University of Malaysia. So moving on to our research within the GRTA project. Overall, actually, our research questions was the pathway, the environmental pathway of microplastic to the southern part of the South China Sea. This is the initial idea. Ultimately, we wish to lead our policymaker to work on the plastic waste management as well as the coastal management. In October 2021, which is last 2 months, we managed to have one stakeholder with the Terengganu state government to discuss about the solid waste management, as well as talk a little bit about marine spatial planning. So, tomorrow, Ms. Rama will talk more about the marine spatial planning in Terengganu. So one of our research is looking at the transportations of microplastic from river to the sea. So for this, we collected the water and sediment sample from local river. For River Terengganu, we collected the sample from river up to the coastal area, and sampling has been done both in northeast monsoon and southwest monsoon. We are hoping to see, we are hoping to understand the source of microplastic as well as the effect of monsoonal seasons on the transportations of microplastic in the river. We are currently still working on the sample and the data set, but we managed to identify some of the plastic by using FTIR. So from the result, polypropylene and polyethylene is by far the major type of the microplastic in my sample. The minor type of the microplastic include paint. Another pathway that we are looking at is atmospheric pathway. This atmospheric pathway the atmospheric pathway of microplastic to the oceans has been estimated to be comparable magnitude to those from fluid sources. So it's definitely a significant sources of microplastic to our sea. As you can see, so actually this project, I'm working with our network partner at the National University of Malaysia. We collected the wet and dry depositions at 3 stations in Malaysia. We aim to quantify and categorize seasonal atmospheric microplastic depositions to the coastal area of Peninsular Malaysia. Also identify the regional and transnationals of the sources. So as you can see from the picture, we did manage to find the microplastic in our sample. And the type of the microplastic, including the rayon, HDPE, LTPE, cellulose, polypropylene, polyacrylamide, PET, and nylon. This research might be a little bit different from what we have done, as I mentioned previously, but because of the lockdown and also increasingly use of takeaway service during the lockdown time, we were wondering how much actually we consume the microplastic when we are using the single-use plastic, as well as actually the reusable plastic ware. This paper actually we already submitted to Food Packaging and Shelf Life and currently under review. Even though this is not directly related to the previous study on environmental sample, but actually is because of the reusable plastic waste, it actually contributes to microplastic as well. It might go to our environment. So is this source of microplastic as significant as, for example, the fiber from laundry process? So this seems like another interesting question for us in the future. So thank you for listening. I would like to thank for all of our project partner and my supervisor. This is my first time to work with different universities in this such a big project. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. If you would like to join the network, please feel free to contact us. And if you have like you wish to widen our collaborations network as well as our research, feel free to contact us too. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Yin. We have some time for questions as well for Yin. So if anyone would like to ask a question, please put it in the chat or raise your hand and you can put your camera on and talk directly.
Can I start?
Yes.
Can I ask, how did you collect the samples for the atmospheric deposition? Can you share maybe some details of how you collected?
For now, because I think I have another partner here on the symposium as well. Fajrin, if you can help me as well if I explain it wrongly. So for now, we are collecting as a total depositions because we are thinking first, we want to see whether or not we have microplastic in the air. So we decided to go for total deposition, which is dry and wet. So we collect rainwater, but at the same time, we will not cover our collector even if there is no rain. Means that we're collecting dry deposition as well. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Question from Holly about the network. Is the network for individuals or for partner organizations or both? Good question.
Yeah. Maurice, maybe you can help.
Everybody is welcome, I think.
Yeah.
I think that the challenge will be to continue this network beyond the project. So there's a larger challenge ahead. But yes, obviously we welcome anybody joining us and working with us. So I think just drop us an email and discuss further how to work with you or your organization.
Yeah, that sounds great. What I will do at some point today, probably during the break, I'll put a file in this meeting so that people can see the speakers' names and email addresses. Any other questions for Yen? Oh, Andrew's got his hand up. Yeah. Go ahead, Andrew.
I just wondered if you could say a little bit more about your sample collection, Yen, particularly down the rivers and out into the sea. What kind of sampling methods have you used, and have there been any problems or issues with that?
For the river sample, actually, because now quite standard, they are using the Newton net to collect the water sample. So yeah, we do have the Newton net to collect the for the river water sample. For the sediment, we use the Pona crab. I think this is kind of like most people are using now. You mean in terms of challenging? I think because of towing the net, I cannot go really inside to the river because there is a limit for the net if you want to tow the net. So I can only make until not really. It's a freshwater, but not until very, very small river. This is a challenge. I think we need to think about how we can get more of the freshwater so that we know where exactly the source is.
Umberto, would you like to ask your question?
Hello,
yes.
Umberto.
Hi, Anne. How are you?
That's good. How are you? Is everything good there?
I was wondering if you used the network to collect the samples, or if you were just a group of scientists, or there were like NGOs or other universities that you were training to collect the samples to have a bigger area that you can cover.
Actually, this is the idea, the initial idea to set up the microplastic network, our Malaysian's microplastic network. The initial plan was whoever wished to use the analytical kits, if it would be good, they can contribute one of the real data. But then because of the lockdown, things seems going crazy. But yeah, we wish that in the future this may happen. Because if one university just handle one river, I think we can get the whole Malaysia river done easily.
Thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions?
Can I add on to that last comment, actually? What we have in planning is not yet finalized, but we are hoping to arrange for an ASEAN-wide sampling by August this year. So I will definitely get back and get in touch with you about collecting samples.
Good.
So I think we want to make this a larger project, and there is a follow-up project with Japanese and Thai colleagues based on this. So I think we are expanding this to the region.
I'm here to share and maybe to discuss about the microplastic monitoring program in Malaysia. This is the view from my perspective. I'm an analytical chemist, so there will be some challenge that we're going to discuss throughout this meeting. I call it business meeting because everyone who's been here is very interested to learn more and also to share lots of things about microplastic monitoring, whether it's a sampling or whether it's a analytical technique and so on. So this is a part of my team that been contributed to the slides. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so this is already, I think everyone knows about this, why we becoming so hotspot to the region for the mismanaged plastic. In 2015, Professor Jana Jambek has published one of the publication on the marine microplastic, especially on the mismanaged mismanaged plastic problem based on the simulation data that they got it from everywhere around the world. This data, they got it from a combination of the real-time data and also modeling data that based on whatever waste that been through to the land, okay, in the landfills. Okay, so based on this assumption that they will gonna be 12,000 million metric tons of plastic waste will be in our earth by 2050. And with this, we know that 10 to 20 million tons will enter the oceans. It's maybe directly from the dumping from the landfill or during the transportation, or maybe from the drainage from our sewage, from the laundries, wastewater treatment plants, and towards the oceans. So in the Southeast Asia region, we have becoming a hotspot for the sink and source of marine microplastics in the world. So next, please. So in the Asian, this is a data that we got from the action plan summary that been published by Asian Secretariat recently. So in the Asian country, we try to come up with one significant mitigation strategies that correlate to and harmonize around each Asian countries, because most of these hotspot for the marine microplastic pollution is in Asian countries. So we have more than 31.7 million tons plastics waste estimated for our Asian countries, and lesser amount that being recycled. On top of that, we also receive a lot of plastic waste from other countries as well. It's a part of the economic growth and so on. So next, please. So in Malaysia, if we're focusing on in Malaysia, the solid waste generation in Malaysia always increase. It is correlated or directly proportionate to the population density in Malaysia. So for example, in 2018, we have 13 million tons of plastic waste that been generated. Oh, sorry, it's not plastic waste, it's solid waste. Out of that is 13% of plastics. And in 2021, just a very recent publication, it estimated that 18 million tons of solid waste generated in Malaysia. This is due to COVID, because we use lots of plastic, because we use food delivery service or so on during all the MCO lockdown and so on. So, and also another thing that we have to remember, that during this pandemic, we going to use, or we have used lots of masks that made from polypropylene. It's a plastic, and it takes 100 years to be degraded. So it's one of the contributor to the plastic waste in Malaysia as well. So and on top of that, in Malaysia, not all states in Malaysia impose a regulatory or mandatory household recycling program. Out of states in Malaysia, only 6 states that follow the Solid Waste and Public Cleansing Management Act 2007, and Terengganu is not one of the 6 states. The 6 states is Perlis, I think it's a Penang, it's a Selangor, Malacca, and Johor, and I think the other one is a Perak maybe. So and this thing becoming a bigger issue to Malaysian, especially the society and also the policymaker, and us as a scientist, we have to try to look into all the lines and try to come up with a best response for this problem. So next, please. So this is also some new data that been published. So Chen published that there's an increase of percentage of generation of plastic waste in Malaysia. He gathered the data from 1975 to 2012, but if we see the trend, it's going to be increased. It's not going down. But for the imports, because we import plastic waste, especially from the UK, the US, from the Europe countries, Australia, exporting the plastic waste to us, and also I think the European country also exporting the waste to China. But when China stopped banning the importing the plastic waste, all this coming to other Southeast Asian region. So we have to do something about this. So that's another thing to ponder. So next, please. So Malaysia in 2018, we come up with this very famous Malaysian roadmap towards a zero single-use plastic, where we'll be banning all the, especially straws, the drinking straws, and also the plastic bag in most of the supermarkets and hypermarkets in Malaysia. But it's a very difficult to educate the society about this, because they are already used to buy things coming with the plastic bags. And even in Terengganu, when we try to ban the polystyrene, it's very hard. So I think the most important thing when we are making any policy, the first approach that we have to make sure that the public knows what we are doing. So this is a challenge as well for us as a scientist. And next, please. So Malaysia, why this? Why the microplastic issue or marine debris issue is very important to Malaysia? We are very into this issue because our territory or our boundaries is have a terrestrial and marine ecosystem that very rich in biodiversity. We are in biodiversity hotspots. One of the most biodiverse coral reef. We have a lots of UNESCO marine park in Malaysia. We have a major fisheries and fishing activity or aquaculture spots in Malaysia. We also have a major seaways. We have a South China Sea, the southern side of South China Sea here. We also have the Strait of Malacca that connected to the Bay of Bengal and Hindi Ocean here. And we have a Pacific Ocean, the other side of Malaysia. So along this area, we have a very major population or major big city, especially at the west coast of Peninsular Malaysia. We have a Kuala Lumpur, we have a Singapore, we also have Indonesia here, we also have a Thailand here, and this one of the busiest, the Strait of Malacca is one of the busiest strait in the world. So this will come out with other issue on pollution, okay? And also we have a East Malaysia, or the Borneo side of Malaysia. So with the diverse ecosystem, and also very diverse. We have 2 monsoon seasons. We have a very different influx and wind and sea wave or currents that will contribute to the sink and source of microplastic in this region. It can be from the land to the sea, or it also can be the influx from the sea to our terrestrial or coastal area. So next, please. Okay, but when we try to look into Malaysia in detail in microplastic problem, it's a very little publication, or we have very little is known about the level of microplastic pollution in the Malaysian environment. I think Indonesia and Thailand publish a lot more far ahead from us, especially in studying 2018 and so on. In Malaysia, when we try to search in Google Scholars, Scopus, or Web of Science, only we come out with 41 publication, and this not totally for microplastic. It's the older publication on plastic litter is basically based on macro size or meso size of plastics. And more than half of data only report based on physical analysis. That can be later on be the amount, especially when we're dealing with microplastic, can be overestimation or underestimation. So we never know. Next, please. So when we try to sum up out of this study, we can see the trend that everything is going up. So we publish more in Malaysia, okay, but lots of study nowadays focus more on sediment, maybe because sediment is more simpler metrics, easier to assess. You don't have to using the net, okay, you just can go and collect some sediment samples, especially beach sediment, the surface plastic, but there are a few also published on coral that can see the different level of microplastic at the different layers of sediments. And also in the water, is maybe in surface water or water bodies or water column, also the flux in the waters, and also in between the estuary, fresh water, marine or coastal water or offshore, drains and laundries, wastewater. And for biota, only 9 studies has been reported for microplastics. We can see the study is for zooplankton, gastropods, bedworms, polychaetes, bivalves, sea cucumber, fishes, lots of species of fish. It's the Lattice calcarifer, we have a tuna and so on, and also recently for coral reef. But for the coral reef, the focus only for the large microplastic, because it's very hard to take the sample from the coral reef, because you don't want to kill the corals. Otherwise, you have to kill the corals to take the corals to your lab, and it's going to be another issue. Okay, and other report also on humans. This is from our group. Fish meals, toothpaste, cosmetics, facial scrubs, and so on. So we can see that we are getting more data for Malaysia, because if we want to have a policy out of this issue, we need to have lots of data, lots of monitorings, lots of statistical data. Otherwise, we cannot see what is the limits of microplastic if you want to ban it, or you want to do some index on it, and so on. Next, please. Okay, so when we talk about microplastic monitoring, so we know that I'm suggesting that everyone that are very keen into microplastic study, you guys can see the guidelines for harmonization of methodologies that been published by UNED last year. But this is for fresh water, but still you can still use it for marine water or marine surface water or other sample metric as well. For microplastics that have in the size of less than 1 millimeter, okay, more data is getting right now, but when we going up, when we going down the size, we need more sophisticated analysis method, because otherwise, like I said before, it can be underestimation or overestimation of the microplastics. So if we're dealing with a large plastics or macroplastics, we can always use a basic visual countings only, or we can use survey using drones and so on. But we are going down to meso or microplastics, large microplastics, 1 to 5 mm. We can use Newton net, drift samplings, or other type of sampling method. But the analysis is advised to be a basic. You have to have a basic microscopy analysis to see the size, and also to count, and also maybe pair with the advanced spectroscopy such as FTIR, so that it also confirm that it is polymer particles. And if we go down to micro level or to nano level, in Malaysia, there's still none published on nano, but I think in Singapore, it's already been publishing in nano. Professor Suresh from NUS already publishing in nano level of plastics to see the toxicity level in zooplanktons and gastropods. But in Malaysia, we're still focusing on microplastics. So the sampling can be from pumping or Newton towing or filtration or any means of samplings. But the analysis, you need to have at least a spectroscopy and other analytical technique methods, such as a pyrolysis, a GCMS, or other thermal desorption GC. So this is because when you go down the size, the surface area become bigger, the toxicity issue become more detrimental or significant that we need to know. So can you next, please? Oh, so this is an example of counting and measurement that we always do in our lab when we count 1 to 1 and we pair with the measuring the diameter and the length of microplastics, so that we know that this is in the size range of microplastics. So next, please. So in Malaysia, the monitoring of microplastic, lots of paper right now at least have some basic instrumentation, more than 55%, because and among them, the ATR FTIR benchtop is the most common. But this technique can be advisable to be used in the larger particle of microplastic, meaning that 1 to 5 mm size of microplastic. If you have a lower size of microplastic, it is advisable that you are using micro FTIR or micro Raman. The size limit of micro FTIR and micro Raman can be going up to 10 micron, or you can use also pyrolysis GCMS to see the chemical profile of the polymers as well as the additive that together with the polymers. Other than that, physical techniques such as SEM, EDX, to see if there's any biofouling material or metals contamination to the microplastics, because we know that plastic is supposed to be inert, so it shouldn't have any problem unless when it's weathering or undergo changes in chemical structure, it will become prone to be a vector to other co-pollutants to it. So that's when the plastic become issues in terms of the toxicity. So among the plastics that being identified in Malaysia, is a polypropylene, polyester or polyethylene terephthalate, PET, the major plastic that we use for bottled water, polystyrenes, a lot in Malaysia, because we still haven't banning polystyrene or ABS materials. We have a polypropylene, lots that being used in making furnitures. We have a nylon here and there, poly PVCs and HDPE or LDPE. So, as I said, a lack of analytical instrumentation will lead to it's either overestimation or underestimation of polymer identification and particle counts. And next, please. Okay, this is a few examples that what we've been doing in UMT. We are doing some monitoring because as part of the this MyMiP network, we need to identify the hotspot for microplastics in Malaysia, and this also correlated with the IOC WESPAC, where we also been tasked to see the hotspot for microplastic accumulation or deposition in Malaysia. So from this study, we did the sampling for the whole year, the bi-monthly, so we can see the trends during the wet or dry seasons, where we can see that there's a very interesting data here from this is from a water sample, and this is from sediment sample. We can see that during the northeast monsoon, it have influence more on water surface microplastics compared to the sediment, because we have a flood in during that monsoon. We have a very heavy season in Terengganu and the monsoon, so we have a more microplastic discharge from the land to the sea, maybe. And then, but during the dry season, we found that we can observe more microplastics on surface on the sediment sample. Maybe it's deposited after the flooding ataupun or after the heavy rain season. So this trend shows that this kind of study is needed to all hotspots in Malaysia to see the trends of microplastics and accumulation or the presence of microplastics in Malaysia. So we can see the biofouling and also the weathering process of microplastic using SEM. And for this paper, we identified the microplastic based on pyrolysis GCMS. And next, please.
Can I ask how many more slides you've got?
I think I have 2, 3, 4 more slides, maybe.
Yeah, we're just running slightly over now. So can we have a couple of more minutes? Just a couple more minutes, and then wind it up. Is that okay?
Okay, sure. Okay, for this one also the similar monitoring for microplastics, but this is from estuary, river estuary, and to the offshore waters of Malaysia. So we can see a different trends of microplastic prevalence in Malaysia, coastal water and offshore water. Next, please. So if you are doing microplastic, I always emphasize on trying to avoid the airborne contamination. So please make sure that you are try your best to avoid the airborne microplastic contamination. Next, please. And this is also some guidelines for monitoring program consideration if you are considered to do some monitoring. So there's a few guidelines that listed by UNEP in 2020. Next, please. And the monitoring program is based on what is your study objectives for, and then you can choose whichever method that suits your objective and aims. Next, please. Okay, so as a scientist, whatever we did is we are try to address these the policymaker and Malaysia after the single-use plastic roadmap. We also planning together with the CASA, the Ministry of Marine Water. I'm part of the team that we planning to have a national marine litter policy for harmonization protocol for microplastic program in Malaysia. And next, please. This is part of the COP-C and C circular project. But we will not stop here. We also, this is a part of the project that we did with Professor Suhaimi and also Andrew. We went to the school before the closing the lockdown. We tried to engage with the young generation, try to make sure that they know about the plastic pollutions, how to recycle and so on and so forth. And we also be part of the IOC Westpac scientist networks for the microplastic monitoring. Next, please. Okay, so this is our work with DW, a producer from Germany. You can see this documentary in YouTube. It's free. It's called Unseen. So where they come with us to see to see how we sampling the microplastics, and we can see the airborne microplastic from the restaurant and so on. And also we also show them the kit that we have from Andrew through them, how we use it in the simpler way to detect the microplastic. Next, please. So we thank to all our collaborators, the EcoMarine also, all the UAE, and also all ALS Technicam that mostly do the piracy for us, and all the funders. Thank you so much. And next, please.